So why I'm switching to Etsy? I'm going to do a fast forward unboxing for this item, but let's talk. Let's have a chat. Yeah, I got actually tricked this week on eBay. A seller, I mean, seemed really nice and then contacted me in the messages and I fell prey. Yes, I'm stupid. I'm not Einstein, okay? And so the seller was like, hey, you know, the fees are a little too high. So I have some really cool pieces that you'd be interested in, but you can Venmo me. And so, like a schmuck, I was like, here's my phone number, blah, 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 blah. And it actually went through. Usually eBay's system, like, you know, like hides those things. And so thank God the guy shipped the stuff out. So I can get a little, like, you know, like I can get a little cheeky in the comments. So he started texting me. And then he's like, you know, we were talking about like we collect what we collect. And I was like, you got to definitely get a metal detector. And I'm trying to be friendly, you know, and I wasn't going to buy any more stuff. I didn't have the money. And so he's like, oh, can I see a picture of you? And look, I'm 50 something years old. I'm not up with the times. And yeah, and I was like, no, you can't have a picture of me. And then he sends a picture of himself. And yeah, and I'm going to probably start buying from Etsy now. Yeah, I was just like, what? What? Okay, does this happen to you? Write a 1 in the comments below if you're a woman and randos just like start asking you for photos of yourself. I don't know, maybe this guy was completely innocent, but it just didn't feel, it felt not right, I guess. What word? Yeah, I have anxiety right now. I'm dripping wet with sweat from this. All right, let's open this package from Etsy. Oh, how pretty. Look, a special snowflake. That's what I am. And yeah, so I don't know, maybe that guy was absolutely innocent. And I'm thinking my brain's going to the wrong place. But, and then he said I was a goofball because I started sending pictures of my dog doing silly things. Like my dog stealing my dinner multiple different times. And he's like, no, I want to see a picture of you. And then he kept asking and asking. And then I sent him some, I don't know, some funny joke with Benny Hill. Most of you won't even know who Benny Hill is. And he was a dirty old man in the 70s on a comedy show. And then he's like, LOL, you are a goofball. And then maybe it made him go away because I didn't get any more texts after that. And thank God. All right. So never give out your phone number to an eBay seller you don't know. I learned that lesson. Oh, this is Tiffany blue. It's not Tiffany's, I can assure you. I saw this on Etsy. The price was decent. It was a little more than I wanted to spend. It's missing its pendant. Ah. Oh, wow. All right. This is actually cool. I like to collect hair. Now, you'd think that guy that was talking to me via text would have found out that I was an odd creature by now. But yeah, hair. I collect antique hair. If it's newer hair, no. And if I find hair in my stew or in my Cheerios, I'm not eating. If I go to a restaurant and there's someone's like hair in my corn, I'm not eating it. But I'll collect it. And ooh, all right. Look at this piece. This piece is really amazing. It's Victorian. And so we got Victorian hair jewelry. This is the most common you will see if you collect. This is a pocket watch chain. And I really liked it because of the weave or the plating. They call it plating. Now, there was different kinds of hair jewelry. There was table work where it would be glued on some sort of like a countertop that it wouldn't stick to, but they would glue it into an art form. Then there was plating, which is what you see here, like this braided look. They had all different designs. It was all the rage. Since Queen Victoria's husband Albert died in 1861, and she placed locks of his hair inside lockets and jewelry, it became all the craze in the Victorian era. Although this was around way before the Victorian era, but it really caught on, and after the 1860s. But pocket watch chains are the most common things you will find. This one is missing its fob. 9 times out of 10, I don't know why, but the fob charms go missing. It would have been right there. And maybe it's because a lot of them are low carat gold. And the smelters or the melter people, the people that like to take these things to pawn shops for money, think that by taking the charm off, they're going to get more money in melt value than it would be in the value of the piece. And I can tell you you're wrong. Even if it was a 9K pocket watch fob, this thing would go up into the $300, $400, $500 price range with a teeny tiny little charm that would be 9K gold. So the smelter people, yeah, I guess with the price of gold, all these charms are going missing. So we're going to have to do something, boys and girls. I'm going to modify this. Sadly, I don't have any Victorian pocket watch fob charms, but I do have, these aren't really antique, these micro mosaic, Rome, Vatican, or Papal States type of mosaic crucifix. These aren't antique. These are probably from the 1930s. Look at the beauty of the intricacy of these little tiles made out of glass that make up the crucifixes. I have another one right here. And so I might add this, give it a little Gothic look. I don't know. Or I have a Joan of Arc. Hold on. And it's not Victorian, unfortunately. It's Edwardian. A Joan of Arc charm that actually is gold. And I don't know if you could see that. Oops. So there's our Joan of Arc. I could put that on here. Instead, I don't know which one I'm going to do. Which one? Now, this Joan of Arc charm, it could be a fob as well. You could use it as a fob. Was probably made for her canonization, which I think was in 1920. And I don't know which one I'm going to put on here. So we'll decide. All right, so this is what it would look like with the Joan of Arc. I'm not sure now what to do. I really do like the micro mosaic. It gives it a colorful appearance, but it's more authentic with like a golden colored cross. I mean, a fob or a pendant. I don't know. I don't know what to do. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna attach two of them on, and you guys, my viewers, are gonna decide which one gets to stay. You know, come to think of it, I think both of them look cool together. So I attached both of these, although they're not the same age as the actual hair piece, the hair work jewelry. I think it looks really cool. What do you think? Should I leave both of them on? It's quite pretty. It makes a nice display. There we go. Good old Joan of Arc. We have the micro mosaic. And let's ask AI more information about these hair pieces. Now, this particular plating job is most likely Swedish in origin. I've seen a lot of Swedish hair work that's done in the same exact way. Sometimes these findings here, these end caps and these toggle pieces that would have attached to the pocket watch are actually made out of real solid gold. 9 times out of 10, it's plated gold or rolled gold. I do not think it's real gold. It could be. I found pieces that were, but it's quite beautiful. Okay, I just made this piece even cooler. I added an antique pocket watch to it, a Swiss pocket watch for the Swiss hair work. This is most likely Swiss hair work. Let's get in there tight. Look how hard that must have been to put this together. Could you see that? That is really, that's time consuming and very, very difficult. The level of difficultness, I mean, they had these tables that they used to attach weights to and tie the strands of hair down and have to weave and plait. I mean, that couldn't have been easy. Look at that. All right, so I added this. This did have a pocket watch chain attached to it already, but this is for display purposes. Wow. All right, so let's ask AI more about this.
This is a remarkable find. What you have is an exceptional example of Victorian hairwork, likely a watch chain or fob chain. The intricate hollow woven patterns, specifically the acorn or bead style seen in your close-up, required immense skill. To answer your questions about why these charms go missing and the history behind this art form, here is a breakdown. Why do the original charms go missing? It is very common to find hair chains without their original fobs for several reasons. Material fatigue. Hair is incredibly strong, but the gold-filled or brass end caps were often just crimped or glued on. Over 100 plus years, the organic oils in hair can dry out, causing the metal connectors to slip off. Inheritance splitting. When these were passed down, one grandchild might get the gold watch, another the fob/seal, and another the hair chain itself. Scrap value. During lean times, like the Great Depression, owners often removed the solid gold fobs or seals to sell for cash, leaving the worthless hair chain behind. Memento mori versus sentimental hair work. While people often label all hair jewelry as mourning jewelry, that isn't historically accurate. Sentimental, love tokens. Many chains like yours were made from the hair of a living sweetheart, spouse, or child. It was a living connection. Memento mori, mourning. These were specifically made following a death. They often included symbols like weeping willows, urns, or the initials of the deceased. The rise and fall of hairwork. The peak, 1850s to 1880s. Hairwork exploded in popularity during the mid-Victorian era. Queen Victoria wore a locket of Prince Albert's hair after he died in 1861, which set a massive fashion trend across Europe and America. Why watch chains? You find more watch chains than other items because they were the standard gentleman's gift. Women would often spend months weaving a chain for their fiancé or husband. It was the ultimate labor of love. The decline, 1890s to 1920s. Hygiene concerns. As the germ theory of disease became common knowledge, the idea of wearing organic matter from the dead, or even the living, began to feel unsanitary. Commercialization. Originally a home craft, it became a mass-produced industry. Once professional hair workers started using hair from strangers, or even horsehair to meet demand, the personal sentiment was lost. Changing fashion. The bulky, ornate Victorian style gave way to the sleek, minimalist Art Deco movement. Is this a Swiss or Swedish piece? Based on the craftsmanship, Switzerland is a very strong candidate. The Swiss-style Switzerland was the epicenter of the watch industry. They developed specialized hair weaving tables, similar to bobbin lace tables, that allowed for the complex, hollow 3D patterns seen in your photos. The micro-mosaic cross, the cross you added, appears to be an Italian micro-mosaic, likely from Rome or Venice. This was a popular Grand Tour souvenir. While not original to the chain, it fits the era perfectly. Common types of hairwork. 1. Table work. Long braided strands used for watch chains and bracelets like yours. 2. Palette work. Hair glued down into pictures, willow trees, initials, under glass and rings or brooches. 3. Gimp work. Hair wrapped around wire to create 3D flowers for shadow boxes or tiaras. The hairwork industry faced a major scandal of authenticity. Customers who sent the hair of a loved one to professional hair weavers often received jewelry made from mass-market hair or horsehair instead. Substitution scandal. Professional jewelers often found it faster to use pre-braided stock hair from hair merchants rather than cleaning and sorting the specific small locks provided by a grieving customer. Growing suspicion. People became suspicious when the color or texture of the finished jewelry didn't match the sample they sent, leading to a rise in home weaving kits to ensure the sentiment remained pure. Mail order accessibility. By the late 1800s, catalogs like Sears, Roebuck and Company, and Montgomery Ward sold standardized hair jewelry designs. Customers would mail their hair to these companies, who then outsourced the labor to large-scale workshops where the risk of hair mixing was highest. By the late 19th century, hairwork had shifted from a private sentimental craft into a major commercial industry. Catalogs like Sears, Roebuck and Company, and Montgomery Ward dedicated entire pages to these items, offering a glimpse into how these scandals evolved. The Sears and Montgomery Ward connection. Mass customization. You could select a pattern from the catalog, ranging from simple braids to complex acorn weaves like the ones on your chain, and mail in your hair sample. Pricing. In the 1890s, a solid gold-mounted hair watch chain could cost anywhere from $2 to $8, roughly 70 minus 250 today. The assembly line problem. These companies processed thousands of orders. To keep up with demand, they employed large workrooms of hair braiders. This is where the trust began to break down. The Great Hair Substitution Scandal. The primary reason hairwork fell out of favor was a loss of sanctity. People began to realize that the sentimental connection was being faked. The color match problem. If a customer sent in a small lock of thin blonde hair but ordered a thick, heavy watch chain, the company simply didn't have enough material. Instead of telling the customer, they would supplement it with stock hair, purchased in bulk from Europe, often from peasant girls who sold their hair for money. The wrong color excuses. It became a common joke/complaint that a person would send in jet black hair and receive a brown chain back. The companies would claim the cleaning process changed the color, but in reality, they had simply grabbed a pre-made chain off the shelf. Horsehair adulteration. To make chains more durable and cheaper, many commercial workshops began mixing in horsehair. Once people realized they were wearing a relic of a farm animal instead of their grandmother or spouse, the ick factor set in, the rise of the home weaver. Because of these mail order scandals, many women's magazines, like Godey's Lady's Book, began publishing DIY instructions. They explicitly told readers, do it yourself, or you can never be sure whose hair you are wearing. Your chain, with its very complex and consistent bead weaving, is a high-quality piece. If it is Swiss, it likely came from a dedicated professional studio rather than a mass-market American catalog, as the European tablework was often much finer and more structurally sound than the rushed mail-order version. While there were no massive modern-style federal lawsuits specifically for hair substitution, these companies faced significant pressure from the Truth in Fabric movements and the Better Business Bureau, founded in 1912, as consumer protection laws began to tighten. Lack of regulation. In the late 1800s, the Federal Trade Commission, FTC, did not yet exist. It was formed in 1914, and there were very few truth in advertising laws. This allowed Sears and Montgomery Ward to use vague marketing language like artistic hairwork without legally guaranteeing the hair's origin. Public backlash and decline. Instead of government fines, these companies were punished by the market. The ick factor. As rumors of corpse hair or peasant hair spread, public trust evaporated. Return policies. Catalogs often had satisfaction guaranteed policies. The high volume of returns from angry customers who noticed color mismatches eventually made hairwork less profitable to list. The post office. The only real trouble usually came from mail fraud investigations, but it was nearly impossible for the government to prove in court that a specific braid wasn't made from the correct person's hair. By the time strict consumer protection laws arrived in the early 20th century, the fashion had already died out due to these scandals. Would you like me to look? While there wasn't a single trial of the century against the big catalogs, the situation eventually became so notorious that it actually appeared as a legal disclaimer in the catalogs themselves. By the early 1900s, companies like Sears, Roebuck and Company grew tired of the constant complaints and mail fraud accusations. Their solution wasn't to fix the process, but to warn the customer that they were essentially gambling with their loved one's hair. The admission of guilt in the Sears catalog. The most famous piece of evidence comes from a 1908 Sears Roebuck and Company catalog. After decades of people complaining that they sent in their grandmother's gray hair and got back a brown watch chain, Sears added a blunt disclaimer. We do not do this braiding ourselves. We send it out. Therefore, we cannot guarantee same hair being used that is sent to us. You must assume all risk. This was a massive blow to the sentimental value of the jewelry. For a customer, reading that meant admitting that the relic you were wearing might just be a random stranger's hair, or even horsehair. The art of mourning deception. Newspapers and magazines at the time, like Godey's Lady's Book, began running articles to protect their readers from these hair artists. The color match scam, professional weavers, would often keep stockpiles of different hair colors. If a customer's hair was too short or too brittle to work with, the weaver would simply throw it away and use the stock hair that was easier to braid. The cheapest manufacturer trap, advertisements in the late 1800s, would often brag about being the cheapest. In one documented case, a weaver named Henderson tried to combat the scammer reputation by promising that any hair remaining over is returned. This was a clever marketing tactic to make customers believe they were getting their specific hair back, but even then, critics pointed out that a weaver could easily return a fake leftover lock. The rise of federal law. The reason these companies started getting nervous was the mail fraud statute of 1872. This was the first major federal law that allowed the government to go after businesses that used the U.S. Postal Service to swindle people. While the government didn't usually have the resources to DNA test a hair chain, which was impossible then anyway, the Postmaster General began keeping fraud lists. If a company received too many complaints about substitution, they could be barred from receiving mail, which would instantly kill a mail order business. Why the Swiss piece stands out? If your piece is indeed Swissy, it likely avoided these mass market scandals. The Swiss tablework was considered the gold standard of the craft. High-end European artisans often worked in small studios where the customer could actually watch the work being done, or at least know the artisan by name, which was the only way to truly guarantee the hair's authenticity. In the US, the scandal of the substitute is ultimately what killed the fashion. Once it became a cheap mail order trick rather than a sacred bond, people moved on to other forms of jewelry.
Okay, that was fascinating. Most of you probably would rather watch paint peel, but I did not know all those things. Did you know that most of this stuff wasn't even of the people's loved ones' hair? What? Imagine that. Your dear mother passes away, you send her hair in to make a piece of jewelry, and you're getting somebody from Oshkosh Bagash's hair? Oh my God, I would be so fuming mad, but how could you tell? Maybe this person was swindled by Sears Roebuck. Can you imagine? Well, Sears is out of business now, and maybe there's a reason why. Apparently, they were even screwing people back then. Holy crap! Holy crap! All right. So, what did I learn? I learned a couple of things. TIL today. I learned that some of these were not even the people's hair. I also learned don't give out your phone number to eBay sellers because you might be getting some weird texts. What else did I learn? Nothing else. Did you learn anything? If you did, tell me what you learned in the comments below. Also, put a 1 if you found it even slightly entertaining. Thanks for watching. We'll see you all on the next unboxing.